Good morning, good evening, or good night, folks. I'm your host, Simon Redhand. This is Gaming Redhanded, where I play games that I find interesting, and what I find interesting right now is Path of Exile, Settlers of Calgary League starting up. Around this time, we start pre-gaming and start planning our league starts and all that greatness. In this league, we're going to be doing something interesting, because I don't know just how this league is going to go. All I knew going into this league, before they even announced what the league mechanic was going to be, is that I wanted to go back and do something damage over timing. I haven't done damage over time in about, we'll say a year. Last one I did was actually this character here, which was my bleed bow character. I stripped all the gear off this character real quick because I had to go into game and do some theory crafting real quick. But I wanted to do damage over time, so I wanted to bleed, bleed, ignite, or poison. And that was the only intention I had in mind. And then they announced Settlers of Calgary, and they announced that they're reworking melees as best as DGG can rework melee in its current state and the mechanics and limitations of the engine. So I decided if they're going to rework melee, I'm going to have to dive in and play melee. And then they revealed two classes that I actually want to check out too, because they completely removed Raider from the game and put in the Warden. And then they overhauled Gladiator. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. Criteria set, damage over time, using Gladiator or Warden, and I want to use a big ass weapon. Now, I understand that Gladiator is sword and shield, or sword and sword, sword and dagger, action dagger, blah 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 blah, dual wield or sword and board, and Ranger is not really known for the big two-hand motherfuck you axes, but I want to use an axe or a mace. I want to slam something, I want to exert something, so, and I want to bleed. Or ignite. So right now, I'm still deciding what skill I'm going to use. I'm torn between these skills here, so I was mainly going towards like the Earth Shatter or Earthquake. Perforate's on the list here. Round Slam's on the list here. Lacerate's like distant second. Because from what I understand from melee skills, keep in mind I don't play melee at all. The last time I played melee was like Cyclone way back in the day, like 5-6 years ago. I don't play melee. I don't remember any of these skills. I don't even look at red gems half the time there. I open up Lana, or whatever her name is again. Lana. And then I go to the gem vendor and I pick up the termination, and then I promptly close the red gem section because that's the only red gem I usually buy. Everything else is usually nonsense. Or Defiance banner. But I don't buy anything else in that section. So I have to actually go in here and read the skill gems. Look at other people's videos and all that, and just to learn the mechanics. I have to actually learn how slams work this league. But I do want to do slams. They sound interesting to me. So, Earth Shatter is first on the list. I was interested in seeing this skill. I'm interested in seeing how this skill functions. I'm not sure if it'll be good for a bleed. I understand it has some interesting interaction with shouts. And that's the main thing that's kind of calling to me, the fact that it can ricochet with shouts and kind of reflect again. But again, because I never use these melee skills, I don't know how they work offhand. I was originally looking at Perforate because it has a transfigured version that does interact with bleed. But I'm not sure if this will be worth using or not. Can I use Perforate without... Let's see, hold on, there's something here. Smash the ground, bring forth multiple spares and damage the enemy when blood stands. I think actually blood and stand. Hold on, I'll be back. Oh, it's not blood and sand. The issue is that this can't be used with a mace. See, that's another interaction with melee that I gotta get used to. The fact that they're weapon specific. There we go. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Let's go hit something to see how that actually pans out. So yeah, I'm coming through. I was going to choose Perforate, but my brother's telling me that Perforate sucks in terms of like its glare and how it feels and all that stuff. And it does seem rather narrow. I don't know how you can spread that out or not. I don't really, because I don't do standard duel, so I don't really want to go through and try to get the transfigured version of this gem just to test it out. All I'm trying to establish right now is what it actually looks like to attack with these skill gems here. I do like Earth Shatter. I think it has a cool pattern there. Check out Earthquake. I like Earthquake. I like how big it gets. I like the screen clear that you can get with this. I've seen people use Earthquake, and it is a skill that's very interesting to me. in terms of it was actually the skill I was originally looking towards, especially with exertion, getting getting a nice mace and stacking exerts and then using earthquake for the bleeds. I like it. This is probably what I'm going to lean towards the most. It's probably an earthquake build. I do like how it looks and how the animations are for it. I don't know how earthquake does for bossing though. I'm pretty sure you can make it work though. It's got ground slam on there. Which, I don't know what the difference is between ground slam and earthquake, because to me they seem the same skill. Let's try to figure that out. Where did I put earthquake just now? Oh, actually, they're still here. Let's see, here we go. Oh, so ground slam is just more immediate. It's a frontal cone. It's not bad. I think earthquake is still up there, still winning on the choice here, though. And then what's the last one I have here? I have the earth shattered. I have sunder. That's kind of cool. I like sunder animates. So I'm probably gonna do earthquake. Most likely earthquake. Later on down the road, I might do earth shatter. So earthquake and earth shatter are probably what I'm gonna lean towards most. I'm gonna jump into the tree right now and just start theory crafting this build out. All right, let's look closer at earthquake. Never used earthquake before. I've always liked the way it looked, but I never actually sat down and looked at it. So let me read the skill gem real quick. Smashes the ground, dealing damage in an area, cracking the earth. The crack will erupt in a powerful aftershock after the duration. Cracks created before the first one has erupted will not generate their own aftershocks. Requires axe, mace, scepter, staff, or unarmed. Base duration is 1 second. Aftershocks deal 150% more damage with hits and elements. Aftershocks deal, it's for the qualities. Aftershocks deal plus 1.5 to 30% more damage with hits and elements. It seems like earthquake is a choice to go with if I'm going to do bleed because of this line here. All right, it seems like the obvious choice to go with. Let's check out earth shadow real quick. Actually, what are the alternate gems for earthquake? So it's amplification. Aftershocks deal 15% more damage. This is at 150%. This one is 15% per hit. Aftershocks deal 6% more damage with ailments per 0.1 second duration. Aftershocks deal 2% more area effect damage. Interesting. So this one's kind of asking for you to scale duration. This is interesting. That's one to consider. Because you can cycle for a bigger hit on the bleed if it's doing more hits. How many hits does it do though? Per hits with, so aftershocks do 50% more damage with hits per 0.1 seconds of duration. So you're scaling duration, but how many times does it hit? Crash the ground dealing damage in areas of effects. After that, cracks are ready for. Is it like continuously pulse? Let's see. Unlike the original skill, this transfigured version no longer has duration and gains more damage and area effect based on duration. Let's see. The skill's damage multipliers are equivalent to that of the regular earthquake gem in a duration of 1 second for a hit or 2.5 seconds for damaging ailments. Hits damage does not snapshot. Damage is calculated independently per hit using the skill's current modifiers. Damage modifiers gained or lost during the aftershock effects will affect its damage. Okay. This one I'll definitely test how that feels in game. And then Val Earthquake. What does the Val skill do? He smashes the ground, cracks proper urge, line, cracking effect of the previous skill cracks are erupted. The effect ends after a maximum number of aftershocks require max mace. Base duration, modifies duration, skull gain. What does the Val skill do? So this is a lingering effect that goes away after 9 aftershocks. Okay. All right. I'm interested in this one. I'm interested in an earthquake of amplification just because it's based on duration. Well, we'll check that out. Earth Shatter. Let's see. Slam the ground, sending out a rectangular fissure that deals area damage to enemies and thrusts his spikes from the ground when they end. War cries or other slam attacks performed by allies or other players near the spikes will cause them to shatter, damaging surrounding enemies. Works with maces, scepters, axes, staffs, and unarmed. I do like how Earth Shadow looks. It feels too. I don't think it'd be bad to use it, but I think that Earthquake would probably be the better choice for this league here. It's because the fact that it already does scale hits and ailments. I gotta go look at the new version, see what the damage is looking like, because I don't know off the top of my head. Let me go pull out the patch notes. So let's do a point of reference here. Earthquake base gem before patch. 10 mana cost, 75% of base attack speed. Attack damage is 85 to 150% of base. Effective added damage is 85% to 150%. And AoE radius is 18 to 28. All right, and then the patch notes says Earthquake now has a mana cost of 10 at gem level 1, scaling up to 13 at gem level 20, previously 10 at all gem levels. Now has 143% effectiveness of base and added damage at gem level 1, previously 85, scaling up to 229 at gem level 20, previously 150. Earthquake Amplification now has mana cost of 10 at gem level 1, scaling up to 13 at gem level 20, previously 10 at all gem levels. Now has a 143% effectiveness of base chance, so this seems to be the same. Previously 150%. Aftershocks now deal 5% more damage with hits and elements per 0.1% 1 second duration, previously 6. So this part got nerfed. But probably the compensated the fact that now you have a much bigger hit, so you will land a much bigger bleed. And it's only a 1% nerf, so I don't think it's a big enough hurt to it. I think Earthquake of Amplification is the play for a bleed setup here. And for Earth Shatter, well, it's telling me in the patch notes. I don't know if I'm going to go through it there. Now has a mana cost of 8 at the 13. This is a big mana cost change if you're an Earth Shatter main. You'll notice that, I'm pretty sure. Previously 8 at all gem levels. Now has 171% effectiveness of base and added damage at gem level 1, previously 125. Scaling up to 393 at gem level 20, previously 200%. So this is a huge damage bonus on it. This does very high damage. These Earth Shatter of Fragility now has a mana cost of 8. Everything else is the same. But this one is also 314% at 20. And Prominence, let's see, 150%, 110%, 346. The base version is the strongest. I don't know what the difference is between Prominence and Fragility. Let's see. Slams the ground, setting over rectangular fissures. Spikes and shatter after duration, damaging surrounding enemies. Works with maces. Wait. Spikes shatter after duration, so they don't resonate after with hits anymore. I think that's what changes. Yeah, so other slam attacks near the spikes will cause them to shatter, damaging surrounding enemies. Whereas this will just shatter after a duration. Okay. And then this one is back to normal. War cries and other attacks performed by your allies and players near the spikes cause them to shatter, damaging surrounding enemies. But it has larger AoE, so it's a much bigger AoE wave. So this is more for clear. Okay. Yeah, I do think I'm going to try Earthquake Amplification. I think that might be the play there. Now, the problem we're going to have is I understand full well that Gladiator is building itself off of dual wielding. I don't know how strong Retaliation is. So if I end up going Gladiator using a two-hander, I only think I really get the benefit from is Exertion, right? So, hold on. The only thing I can really benefit from outright is Exertion, and I also can use War of Attrition. I can make use of Weapon Master, but if I use a mace, Weapon Master gives me more AoE. If I use an axe, it gives me the damage over time. They execute after low life. It's not worth 2 points, right? It's not worth 2 points, especially since this node will be half dead on the way over there, just because it's only for one hand specifically. I don't know how good retaliation skills are. This could end up being fine, right? Especially with the new Defiance War banner. I'll be able to get blocks that way if I really want to use it. Not Defiance, Dread banner. So we'll see. But this is the thing though. Like a lot of the power in this tree is coming from this node here. You dual wield to get your block chance doubled. This is a big deal, right? It's hard to give that up, right? And it would be the only big difference you're choosing between, right? Because you wouldn't be losing out on much else, but losing out on block is a big deal. It's because all these small nodes build on block, and it's not impossible, but very difficult to get an ability to block with a two-hander, right? So it would be aggravate's pretty good. It's a good solid 4 points here. War attrition is kind of meh, but it's not terrible, but it's not like a reason to pick the class. But I'm not hating myself putting 2 points there. And then this is half used. Attack speed's good, but I can't block, so I'm losing out on that. And then I don't know how good retaliations are, right? Whereas the Warden, I got no problems here. Like I don't know how I've seen some of the tinctures so far, but I'm not thinking I can't make tinctures work. And I think bark skin is whatever. I'll use it, throw it down, I'll build around it. I think it'll be fine. So it'll take care of my defensive layers, right? I like how strong Avatar the Wilds are, but since I'm going to be going bleed, yeah, turn that all off. But this would be so heavily dependent on finding a worthwhile tincture. I probably end up just buying it because I'm not playing solo southbound. But this doesn't bother me. Like I could make it work here using the tinctures. There's been a nice Reddit guide out there explaining the tincture breakpoints and trying to get 12 seconds and whatnot, making tinctures look cumbersome. The word I'm looking for, cumbersome, but not impossible to make work, right? The only problem would be just the starting location, because Ranger is all the way out here, and I would want to get over to two-handers, which is, what is it? So two-hand mace is, I'm pretty sure I'm not spelling that right. I'm pretty sure there's a hyphen there somewhere. Let's see. So two-hand, you have a two-hand node down here, and I have to reach towards, where else? Let's just find them all first. I'm pretty sure two-hand mace is like all the way over here somewhere. Like if I do mace. So mace and scepter down here. Down here, spine crusher. Some over here. Right. Oh, this is stun threshold. So it's a bit of a stretch here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plan this tree out. I'm gonna plan an earthquake build tree out for both Ranger and Gladiator and see which one is probably more feasible to start off with. So yeah, while I was planning my build out and looking around, they released the new build gem changes, and there's some here. I just go through them while making the video, pop them in here at the same time. Auto exertion looks nice. Reserved mana based on the supported war cries and causes those war cries to be repeatedly triggered. It's basically the same as the auto guard skill, right? Crushing fist. Retaliate against a blocked hit, calling forth a huge armored fist to slam the ground in front of you as you do the same, dealing damage in area. Cannot be used by default. Becomes usable for 2 seconds after you go. We went through this in the last video with crushing fist. The damage is kind of crazy. 2193% of base. Crazy high damage, right? That's some serious damage there. This rate is 1345% of base. It's super strong. Sword Storm, 247% chance of base, but it does a bunch of little hits, right? Hits over 8 times. And then Vengeful Cry, which is the only one I'm kind of like about. Well, I'm about all of them, where retaliation skills themselves require so many conditions to set forward, right? Vengeful Cry, so it becomes usable after 2 seconds when you take a savage hit. 40% increased cooldown recovery rate, counts total power of enemies in range, grants a against 3 rage per second per 5 power, counting a maximum of 25 power. So you crack this, it's gonna give you, is it 15 rage? And it gives you plus 25 to maximum rage. Buff prevents loss of rage too. That's pretty cool, actually. If you are building a rage build, it's actually pretty cool. It's just the savage hit part of it is in of itself is kind of like it's very, 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 very conditional, right? Because how do you promote using this more? You don't want to go around trying to get more savage hits put on you, right? What's interesting about these is because I'm going to be using a two-hander, so I'm not going to be able to block unless I do some jankiness and pull out the new banner skill. So the new Dread banner grants 4% chance to block added after shooting your allies, and if you scale it with all the nodes and define and the increased aura effects and stuff like that, you get up to like 74% chance to block with banners activated, right? It's a lot of investment in banners, right? But I could, if I wanted to make use of one of these bleed skills, one of these retaliation skills, I could do it that way, right? Because it just says chance to block. It doesn't say you need to, like, let's see here. So eviscerate requires a sword and a shield. If I wanted to make my crushing fist, if I was going to use crushing bleed, I would have to like put chance to bleed on and all that rest of the stuff. But so this requires a sword and a shield to make work. So the only option would be crushing fist. And I don't think there's any other retaliation skill here. Check. No, there's no other retaliation skills here. Just those three. The only one that's interesting to me is crushing fist because it is a slam. The only way to make this work would be with the banner scaling. And it's already like a lot of stuff happening here, right? But it is interesting to me. Now, the rest of these in here, nothing's really calling out to me. They got a glacial shield swipe, retaliate against blocked hit with a sweep of your shield, unleashing the wave of ice cone in front of you. Does some good damage. Let's see here. So 609 and 911 offhand physical damage. 29 to 43 added physical damage per armor or evasion rating on your shield. 100% physical damage converted to cold. Cannot be used by default. The usual spiel for retaliations, right? It's not a bad skill, right? It's a lot of promotion of sword and board hookup. Another sword and board, right? Another sword and board skill. Well, not a sword and board, but melee weapon and board skill, right? There's two of these retaliation skills require you to have a shield. Puncture of shanking. Punctures enemies causing a bleeding debuff, which will be affected by monsters to skill duration. Modifiers to skill duration. Puncture works with daggers, claws, or swords. This is pretty cool. This is a puncture variation, but only works with melee. And it causes bleeding no matter what. More damage with bleeding. Increases critical strike chance against bleeding target enemies. This is going to be cool with Perfect Agony, right? To do Perfect Agony, that scales based off your crit chance and crit damage multiplier. And then paired with the new more duration supports, which is the only source of more duration I can think of in this game right now. This is gonna be a crazy gem, but this is gonna be a crazy gem for other skills too. Because last league I played the Stormburst tournament, heavily relies on skill of restoration. I played Bama several times. I played Bama, and this is a supreme buff for Bama. If you play classic Bama, not the new ones that cap at 3, but because the goal with the original Bama was to get as many clones as possible. If you got your cooldown reduction down and your skill duration up, you were getting up to like 18, 19 clones on screen each. So you're having basically up to 30 plus clones on screen, blink arrow and mirror arrow. If you're willing to do the clicking and spamming stuff like that, this is a massive debuff for base mirror arrow and base blink arrow, not the new ones that cap out of 3, the ones that don't have a cap on the number of clones you can put out there. So this if like I'm gonna be doing some really unique build here with either tincture, earthquake bleed, or guardian or gladiator earthquake bleed. If this doesn't work out, I'm telling you right now, I'm going straight to blink arrow, mirror arrow, classic style, more duration support, and using this, or I'm going to stormburst totems using this. Also considering using the new specters, the one based on the synthesis boss that also requires duration to scale to make it work. Like there's so many. The one that required a link skill to actually activate it. There's so many options here. This is such a crazy buff. This buffs so much other things like cast when damage taken setups. There's so many other setups that there's threw an increased duration in there because there's no other. Like, what else you're gonna put in there to have it be more duration now? Absurd, completely absurd. And also because I was thinking about earthquake of amplification, this is even more absurd in there too, right? So earthquake of amplification, we're talking about earlier, where it what's in here? Hold on, let me jump to it. It changes how earthquake works because you want earthquake to be a long-standing debuff. It's gonna give you a massive FU hit after a certain duration, but it's gonna be unusable during that time, right? So it increases the amount of damage you deal per 0.1 second of duration, right? It does it for your base damage. Well, this is not showing the full skill. Yeah, there it is. So aftershock deals the more damage with hits per 0.1 second of duration. Aftershocks deal more damage with ailments per 0.1 second of duration. Aftershock deal 2% more area effect per. So you could get some crazy screen wide, holy shit bleeds going on with this new increased duration support. However, you're going to be melee's gonna be more active now. Keep that in mind, right? So you're gonna be slamming the ground with earthquake first as your opener, and then you're gonna move on to something else, which I'm probably gonna be using earth shatter in the meantime while I'm doing that with the war cries and stuff like that. And then when that duration comes off, whether it's 10-second duration or whatever, and it finally goes off, it's just gonna be a big old bleed that's gonna override the other bleed. So this increased duration support came out of nowhere for me, and it's actually giving me the most excitement for builds right now, because it gives me so many options I can do if the builds I have planned does not work out, right? The final retaliation skill, which is the one I thought was kind of interesting for other builds that uses shield that throw one in there, is the divine retribution. The scaling is not as crazy as the other one because it's a spell, right? Well, it is considered a spell, yeah. So retaliates against blocked hits with a surge of divine power, causes multiple waves of lightning burst to expand outwards from target location. This skill cannot be triggered by your totems or mines or traps. This skill is crazy as hell. Like if I were to go and do Stormburst totem again, like my build was tight, but I'm pretty sure I had space to fit this in here, and I would fit in this into my skill. Like I would put in this divine retribution because I did use sword and shield. I did use a shield. You have to use a shield to get additional totem. I would be blocking, and I would definitely find a use for this divine retribution in that setup there, right? And it's a duration skill too. I would definitely find somewhere to put this for sure. What is duration doing for this though? Let's see. It becomes usable once for 2 seconds after you block. 20% increase cooldown recovery rate. Each wave has 6 bursts. Why is there duration here? Duration is a tag, but how does duration benefit on this skill though? I guess for each wave. Can you get additional waves the longer the duration is? I'm not seeing a tip, right? It says level, cost, cooldown time, cast time, critical strike chance, effectiveness, quality. Retaliate against a blocked hit with a surge of divine power, causing multiple waves of lightning burst to expand outwards from the target location. This skill cannot be triggered, but I don't know what duration does for this skill. The only duration part of this skill becomes usable after 2 seconds when you block a hit. But you wouldn't want to increase that. You'd want to reduce that. But that has specific gems like this that make it last longer. Retaliate skills become usable for longer. But that's not something that increased duration will adjust. That's like a specific modifier for retaliation that opens that window up longer. So I don't know why duration is on here as a tag. It's only on that. Well, it's on Vengeful Cry too. But, so I don't know where duration comes into play here. This is interesting though. This is interesting. This is the only retaliation skill that's super interesting to me. Even though I've seen others talk about how like it's not that good. This is the only one I actually am interested in seeing how it would fit into other builds, because there's a lot of lightning based builds that just have a shield on that could just throw this in there, you know. So let's see the supports. Expert retaliation support. Supported retaliation skills become usable for 39% longer. Supported skills have 80% more cooldown recovery rate. Like the gem quality here, economy here is so tight, because like if you want even when I'm looking at my build now that doesn't have a shield, my only chance to block will be through banners. It requires me to invest heavily in banners in order to get the block chance to be usable. It would also require me to invest heavily into retaliation skills to make the retaliation usable. It's like there's so many points now going to be dedicated to these additional nodes, and it's like I'm not gonna have the points, or I'm not gonna have the sockets to make this worthwhile. Because like if I put a retaliation skill on like Crushing Fist, I'm gonna have to put on expert retaliation support. That way you can use it more often, right? But it also has its own internal cooldown, right? So even when you have like I were to go up to measure retaliation, which retaliation skills become usable for an additional 2 seconds. 50% chance for use retaliation skill to remain usable and not consume a cooldown use. Is that the goal? Is to have that chained up together with, if you're playing gladiator, with that, in order to you can come over here and just start spamming crushing blows if you get to proc, because it has a 4-second cooldown reduction recovery, right? If it procs, then it will have no cooldown recovery, so then you get to use it twice for this big old like fuck you damage, and then it's gonna give you a crazy old bleed if you have it bleed, but then you have to make it bleed. It doesn't bleed initially, so you have to link it to a chance to bleed support. All right, you could probably do something like I'm gonna use 2-handed. I'm gonna have a double. I can have 2 6 links. I can have 1 6 link and 2 5 links, and I could do it that way, right? But then, well, it's gonna be like 2 4 links, because you'd have to have this fucking gem in there to make it work, and that's only gonna work for the exertion skill. I mean, for the retaliation skill, right? So I don't know. This it's interesting, but it's also complicated, right? But it is something I want to mess with. Let's see here. Overexertion support, supported melee skill support, melee skills, attacks. Oh, let me start it over. Supports melee attack skills which can be exerted. Cannot modify the skill of minions, val skills, and channeling skills. Cannot be exerted. There's a asterisk here because somebody asked already in the questions from GGG, does that include Val Earthquake and other Val skills that have exertion eligibility? And they basically said the Val skills that could be exerted before could still be exerted by this. So Val Earthquake can be exerted by this, right? So there's a little star there, right? Supported attacks deal 18% more damage for each Warcry exerting them. Supported attacks deal 10% more damage if exerted. Supported attacks deal 20% increased damage if exerted, right? And this is the gem I most likely will be using, because I will be spamming exerts. I also plan on using one of these Warcry these crushing force magnifiers, which Warcries exert an additional 1 attack. There's a stronger version here also, impact force propagator. Warcries exert 2 additional attacks. So there's a lot of interesting things that here that can work out together, especially now that melee could be more active. Yes, it's not gonna be attacking quickly as we're used to in Path of Exile, but I'm not against setting and forgetting skills, right? Slamming down and every time I have to, and putting that bleed down and relying on the bleed propagation to kill, and when boss fights start, throwing down that earthquake of amplification, and then using other skills in the meantime while waiting for that big old monster hit to come off. Like I this may not be the traditional Path of Exile playstyle. It is something that is interesting to me, that I think I can make work. It might not be like the, any racer's dream. It's definitely not an easy league start. It's something that I know is going to take a lot of trial and error. I remember when I first started messing with Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow, there was a lot of effort put in to make that work. Now it's much easier. Now you can make Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow work. But this is a time when using Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow was a form of like self-torture, like getting that skill to work out, the effort it required, that time it took to get there. And then you had certain changes that made it easier, like when they added phantasmal versions of the gem and they removed the phantasmal version of the gems, and the skill gem didn't become properly usable until they added in the new Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow transfigured versions. But before that, it was like a very, very hard and arduous uphill battle to make that skill work. And then eventually, when you got the items in place, the bow in place, the gems in place, the crazy items you need to put together in place, then it just clicked together and it became a very incredible skill. But it definitely was not a league starter. It was not for beginners. You could not make this work if you weren't ready to drop hundreds of divs into it. This, I imagine, is going to get to that point. I think that I'll be fine with Earthquake and Bleed and all that stuff. It's the additional mechanics that are going to make it difficult to work, right? That's if I do Earthquake, Gladiator. But the other side of that equation is Tincture, Earthquake, Gladiator, which is on the Warden side, which is the other side, which is like, okay, well, we're going to see how that goes, right? I don't think there's anything else in here with running only. Let's Rupture support. Rupture skills have 20% increased critical strike chance. Critical strikes with supported skills that inflict bleeding also inflict rupture. Target takes 29% more damage from bleeding per rupture on them from supported skills. Bleeding expires 25% more quickly per rupture from supported skills. This is the Pathfinder skill. Oh, not Pathfinder. Deadeye skill that they made to a skill gem. This is interesting to me. Definitely could make it work if you do some crit scaling and you end up going towards perfect agony, right? It gives you increased critical strike chance. Let me go read that perfect agony gem real quick. Damage over time multiplier for ailments is equal to critical strike multiplier. Critical strikes do not deal extra damage. Non-critical strikes cannot inflict ailment. You want to get yourself crit capped and scale critical strike multiplier. And then if you're able to do that, you get some crazy damage from perfect agony, right? So I think that when you look at that and you go over to Rupture, that's definitely going to be paired well with Perfect Agony, right? Supported skills have critical strike chance, so it's going to help you. It's going to help your skill get the crit cap much easier. Critical strikes with supported skills that inflict bleed also inflict Rupture. Well, if you crit, it's gonna bleed, right? So you're gonna rupture every time you bleed, and then targets take 29% more damage from bleeding per rupture on them. Now, how many stacks does rupture go up to? I don't know, but it makes your bleeds expire 20% more quickly per rupture from supported skills on target. But that's fine because you're trying to make them bleed faster, right? This is very interesting with Perfect Agony. It's gonna be hard to theorycraft this just yet. I'm not a POB warrior. I don't like planning my skills in a skill tree like that. I like tweaking my skill. I'll make my rough outline, but I don't do that thing that people do when they find a bunch of uniques that I slot them in here and I'm gonna plan my whole build and play the game 15 hours in path building. I don't want to do that, so don't expect that coming out of here. With that said, let's go through it and start this off, right? So let's try with planning this earthquake build with the gladiator first, right? So first, I gotta go figure out what the new bleed clusters look like. Because I looked at the patch notes, but I did not go through there and read them because I need the visual layout. I'm not really good at figuring out the nodes that way by reading the giant patch notes. I like seeing on the path of building, and I've been busy at work and once human and like, so I didn't go through there and do my whole planning. So let's see here. Let's start off with searching for the bleeds and finding out where they are and pathing to all of them, and after that I'll look at them all one by one. I usually do this when I need to figure out where certain things are tree on. I just type in bleed and then I just click the pathing to all these nodes here, and I'll start peeling back whatever I think is not really useful. So from here, there's about 5 or 6 notables that you could consider looking at. You've got Wicked Blade, which is 30% increased damage with bleeding, 20% increased bleeding duration, and on the way over there you get chance to bleed, chance to bleed. So that's about 30% chance to bleed pathing over there. That's pretty early on. That's not a lot, that's not a lot of points invested there, right? Crimson Dance, ignoring. Over here, you get your bloodletting, 15% to damage over time multiply for bleeding, which is mostly what I'll be getting. 10% chance to aggravate bleeding on targets hit with attacks. That's pretty strong, but you know, because I'm going to be going gladiator, I'm going to be getting that guaranteed aggravate. But before that, while you're leveling, this is a great note to get, but also that more damage multiplier to bleeding. This is probably being your build regardless of what you do, right? The only thing you would be adjusting is this side here, but another 15% chance to bleed. So you're already with the 25% from chance to bleed support, 30% here, 30%, 60%, you're already basically guaranteed bleeding coming in here, right? You're already maxed out 100% chance to bleed here. And this is what, level 15, 16? You think about it? That's not bad. League starting with bleed is definitely viable. Definitely something I can do. You get that going real early, right? These two clusters alone, boom, you're already bleeding on every hit. Now, is the damage worth it? That's a different question. We have up here. What do we have over here? Bleeding enemies cannot inflict bleeds on you. So this is a defensive note here. Don't really need that one. Peel that all the way back. What's over here? Master the wounds, 12% over 12% to damage over time multiplier for bleeding, 30% reduced bleed duration on you. And these side nodes are bleeds you inflict are faster. Increased bleed duration. So I like this note here. This is pretty good. I would probably go this side here for faster if I decide to go down for this node here. But this is a cluster that if I have to drop something, I'd probably drop this. Else, this is just I don't know, because this is pretty strong, but we'll see. What's the rest up here? Bleedings you inflict are 50% faster. Strong attacks to have 50% chance to cause bleeding. This might not even be necessary. So you have an option here. Like if you're struggling to get your bleed capped out, you would go over here and drop one of these. But reality is, if you came up this way, you're going for the increase. You're going for the bleeds you inflict deal damage 5% faster, right? So you get 20% there. If you keep this node, you're at 25%. You're having a good day here with these notes here. So savage wounds is pretty good. What else? On this side, you have cornered prey, 30% to critical strike multiplier against bleeding enemies, 80% increased critical strike chance against bleeding enemies. So you have to get them to bleed, and then you're off to the races with your perfect agony, right? So this is a strong node, especially if you plan on building the perfect agony, which I'm not sure I'm doing yet. I'm probably will. Just gonna have to figure out how to get my crit chance to be that high, be 100%. And then what it was having a 24% chance to aggravate bleeding on targets you critically strike with attacks. That's actually pretty good, pretty strong. So you get a 50% chance to aggravate. I'll combine with the node over here. Where is it? Which one am I looking at here? And so you have 60% chance to aggravate if you're building crit. All right, and let's look at the support passives here. So you have moving while bleeding does not cause you to take extra damage. It's defensive. 50% chance to aggravate bleeding on targets you stun with attack hits. Attack hits aggravate any bleeding on target which is older than 4 seconds. Huh. Oh, so after 4 seconds, if your stack can increase duration on your ailments, if they last longer than 4 seconds, for the remaining seconds after that, they're just gonna automatically aggravate. That's not gonna be necessary because I'm gonna be using gladiator if I do that, but it's something to consider for other builds. But I don't know about that. 80% increased critical strike chance against bleeding enemies. Oh, you got two of these. You have this, the mastery, and then what, this node itself does that too. Interesting. I mean, this is far down there, right? Like this is hard to get to if you're coming from this side, but this is interesting. There's a lot of bleed chance there. I mean, it's not a critical strike chance there, but it's against already bleeding targets. And so that's, if you're not using perfect agony, is very strong. right? Because then you bleed them, and then after that you're gonna be critting for bigger bleeds, bigger bleeds, bigger bleeds, right? But if you're trying to do perfect agony, then you have to get your bleed chance capped already to make that worth. Actually, it'll facilitate it. So even if it's almost like a lucky version of bleed, right? Like once you get your bleed on there, you have a lower chance to crit. Like it's not 100%. Like say you have like 60, 70, 80% chance to crit, and you finally do get that bleed on there. Now you get an additional 160% chance to bleed if you have both those clusters. 160% crit chance if you have both those clusters. That might send you over the top to get your perfect agony properly rolling. So it might feel a bit like janky, but it might get you there faster if you're trying to close that gap to get that crit chance up there, right? What else do you have here? 3% to damage over time multiplier per endurance charge. Huh. I like that. Especially with the new changes to endurance charges with them reducing physical and elemental damage. I do like 3% damage to damage over time multiplier for bleeds per endurance charge. I do like that. 25% chance to aggravate bleeding on targets you hit with exerted attacks. So I will be exerting for sure. So an additional chance to bleed on top of that. I think that's something I would have to get on my tincture warden exertion build that I plan on setting up there. That, hopefully it's not going to be a meme set up there. All right. Those are the bleeds. So the bleed clusters right now, I think these are pretty strong for sure. And you're working your way down to this one here and this one here. This one here is going to be last on your list as you start building towards crit. And then for the passives, what I'm interested in is the damage over time multiplier for endurance charge. And what else is here? I think that's gonna be it. Honestly, I think that's gonna be it. And if I'm playing gladiator, that's all I'm really looking at, because I already have guaranteed aggravate, so the other two energy to me are not already gone. 80% increased critical strike chance against bleeding targets. I'll probably throw that in there if I'm not using perfect agony. That's still pretty strong, right? So that's it. So the only two are the critical strike chance and the endurance charges. All right, and then what else I'm looking at here? We'll be looking at the banner clusters. Actually, first retaliation. I've not looked at the goal yet, so let's click these off, see what they are. Retaliation. Oh, this whole thing's a retaliation wheel. This is a different thing, but I'm gonna highlight it anyway. I'll read it afterwards. Here, retaliation notes up there. I think that's all of them. All right, so what's this? This is an anoint, right? 20% chance for use retaliation skills to remain usable and not consume cooldowns. This is some variation of the gladiator skill. Whether that stacks, or is it an independent roll? Yeah, so that's the weaker version of this. So you can get that to 70% chance if you really want to use the anoint on that. Takes a prismatic oil too to do that. Let's see here. So we have prepared response, 25% chance when using retaliation skill for a different retaliation skill to become usable. This is if you want a piano retaliation skills, just like you have the piano tinctures at some point, right? I don't know about that. I didn't see if I was doing a traditional sword and board, then eviscerate along with crushing blow, maybe. But no, I don't see. I haven't seen two retaliation skills I want to put together. Hell, I barely see one I want to use. Retaliation skill becomes usable 20% longer. This is retaliation skills have 15% increased cooldown recovery rate. I think stacking cooldown recovery rate is gonna be something you're gonna be doing a lot if you're using retaliation skills. Let's see here. Flow of battle. Retaliation skills deal 30% increased damage. Gain 5 rage on hit. Cruel retort. Every fourth retaliation skill you use always critically strikes. Retaliation skills have a 20% increased attack speed. What else? What's all these small nodes doing? Increased damage. Cooldown recovery rate. Retaliation skills have a 30% increased area of effect. Retaliation skills have 15% increased area of effect. And then over here, Retaliation skills have 50% increased stun duration on enemies. Retaliation skills 45 on melee. And that might be decent. The only decent note here. Probably why it's so far away from everything else. Well, I guess it's pretty close to here. If you're starting Jug, I guess it's fine. Templar, I guess it's fine to get towards it. Careful counterattack. 10% chance to block attack damage if you've used a retaliation skill recently. 10% chance to block spell damage if you've used it. It's actually pretty good. If you're using retaliation skill, it's pretty good. Okay. And then, is that all of them? This is 20% increased chance to increase damage while holding a shield. This is for actual retaliation. That's a different thing. This would not be included. And then what are these small passives doing here? The masteries. 80% increased duration. Retaliation skills debilitate enemies for 3 seconds on hit. 20% increased armor for each different retaliation skill you've used in the past 10 seconds. 10% chance when you use a retaliation skill for a different retaliation skill to become usable. 40% reduced cost of retaliation skills. I don't know. If I was starting Templar or Juggernaut side, I guess if I were to put retaliation on, I would let's see here. I don't know what this has twofold, so this is worth getting just because it makes your retaliations become usable for 30% longer, and then you stack that up on this side here, right? But then you also need the cooldown recovery rate. But if you want to be longer, you need the cooldown recovery rate, right? But I would probably go this direction here, and then after you got the mastery points here, then I would switch over to recovery rate itself, right? After you got this unlocked, which gives you retaliation skill to become usable for additional 2 seconds, and 50% chance for use retaliation skills to remain usable. I would probably then put the point to this and probably keep the entire wheel actually, and then also consider getting let's see here. It's only 10% chance. The armor is good. Duration of ailments. Oh no, no. The armor is good. It probably debilitate. We'll see. So if I were to get to mastery, pick up that node. What's down here again? Retaliation skills have 30% increased damage. Don't care about that. Increased attack speed. Don't care about that. I don't care about this entire wheel. It will be gone. What's this one here? Area effect. Don't care about that at all either. So this entire segment will be gone. Let's see over here. I like the fortified. I like the free fortify. If you're using retaliation, you might as well get the free fortify. So this would probably get a point. And this gives you on the side here, stun duration, useless. Not useless, but I don't care. So go for the least amount of point investment just to get that. But at this point here, like this is so far up. I mean, this would be like, this is probably the most interesting one here, but I can't block, right? Because my only block would be coming from the war banner if I am using it. So while this is nice, this is if you're doing traditional sword and shield, right? But this would be the idea here. If you're going to use retaliate, I think these two clusters are probably mandatory. Especially this one here, like fortify on hit. It's fortify. It's very good. So let's look up the banners, the new banner clusters here. Banner here. We got a cluster here. Oh, it's got a giant wheel down here. Yeah, that's new. Over here. There's not too much banner, so it's not too far off the beaten path to get banners cranking. What's this one here? So we have Defiant Stand. Gain 3 endurance charges when you consume. That's it, right? That's the one. Definitely getting that. 3 endurance charges when you consume maximum valor to place a banner. Gain 3 frenzy charges when you consume maximum valor to place a banner. Like this is for sure going on, right? Especially since I plan on getting the endurance charge mastery and the bleed node, right? The 3% damage over time multiplier for endurance charge. So yeah, hell yeah, right? Increased valor gains, seats and valor's faster, and what's this one? So all of it's increased valor gain. This is the strongest cluster. This is probably an automatic yes if you're gonna be using banners. You're putting that on. What else? Banners have 50% increased aura effect. We putting that on. I gotta scale that block chance up if I am gonna use it. Skills have 10% increase or increased aura effect, and then banners also gain 5% all elemental resistance for you to allies. I'd be getting this too. I would have to get it to get my aura effectives up. That's if I plan on using banners to trigger retaliations. What's over here? Banner buffs lingering for 3 seconds after you leave the area. Definitely getting that, so I can have it running more often. Banners have 20% increased duration. 30 maximum valor. Why do I mount maximum valor? I guess the banners are based on your valor. Let me go read the banner changes precisely. Banners have been reworked. Instead of having a reservation cost, they are free, or they don't grant a permanent buff. Banners now need to be placed for the effect to be active. However, once placed, they are far more powerful than before. They also automatically deactivate when you leave the area. Additionally, there is new ways to prolong the effect and more ways to invest in them than ever before. A new banner man and renowned these. We're going through that right now. Let's see. Added new set of banner passive masteries. Banners also maim enemies. This so right. Let's go look at the banner skills themselves. So the banner I'm interested in Dread Banner. So where does Valor come into play here? That's what I'm interested in seeing. Why do I want more Valor? 10% more area effect per banner per Valor consumed. 10% more aura. Okay, so the more aura effectiveness you have, the more Valor. The more Valor you have, the more aura effectiveness you have. So if I go over, that increased 30, which is what that's talking about, giving you. That winds up being that's quite a bit. It's quite a bit of aura effectiveness right there. So yeah, it's not bad. No, this is all max on Valor, right? So it's 30. So this will bump you up to 100, right? So 50, get to 100 Valor, so double. And then you need Valor gain and all that, right? Just to make it worthwhile. Banners have increased duration. I would increase duration because what I want is it for it to linger on me when I leave the area. But that I don't know if increased duration counts as that. I don't think increased duration increases the linger. The linger is what I want to increase the duration on, not the banner being on the floor. So this is probably how this we would look if I take banner clusters, not for the increase, not for this, not for promoting me standing still longer, but promoting me having it and then having a stronger version of it when I do pop it. So I like the way that looks. And what else here? What's this one do? Banner skills have a 20% increased area effect. Banners also cause killed enemies to have a 20% chance to explode. How does that work with already having first of all, this is far as hell. This would only be something considered for who would consider this? I guess non gladiators would consider this. But I already have, if I'm going bleed, I already have bleed explosions, right? I don't think they stack with each other. Oh, they stack with I wouldn't need them to stack with each other. What else here? Wait, increased area effect. This is one I could safely say I don't need. But I'm going to be up here already. But even though I'm up here, I still don't need this cluster, right? But the bleed's up here, right? The bleeds are on here somewhere, right? It would be in Savage Wounds. It's up there somewhere, right? But I can safely say I don't need this. I don't think this stacks with bleeds. But even if it did, I already have. I'm already going to have this, right? I'm already going to have gratuitous violence, right? So, I guess having two versions of it wouldn't hurt. But yeah, the increased area effect is kind of interesting because of the fact that banners turn off on their own when you leave the threshold. it is something to consider having a larger AoE. That way you don't accidentally leave the threshold and disable it. But I don't think so. So let me look at the gem real quick again. The base duration is 12 seconds. If I am be scaling increased duration, which I most likely I will throw that more multiplier increased duration support on there. Why not? What else are you gonna put on banner support, right? Oh man, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in this Defiance banner for sure. Not Defiance banner. Dread banner. I'm interested in Dread banner if I go for making a retaliation spell work. But then again, just having a chance to block, just two-hander who can block is a nice strong defensive layer. I don't mind it, right? Chance to block attack damage, but it's only attack damage though, and you recover life while blocking. But I don't mind it in either way. Like I think it's decent. All right, what else here? It makes it. Let me look at blocks. If I get blocks from the banner. Let me go look at the rules on blocks in general. Like, do they require a shield all the time, or are there nodes here that will enable spell block if you have block active? Let me check these. Oh, first let's check the masters. Banners also maim enemies. Cool. Gain 5 valor when you Warcry, if able. Also cool. Removes a random ailment on you when you consume at least 10 valor when you place the banner. Also pretty cool. Recovers 3% life per 5 valor consumed. And causes enemies. Banners also cause enemies to take 8% increased damage. So I would get that. And the heal is debatable. And also the valor when you Warcry might make it feel very smooth. Banners also maiming is debatable. So there's 3 on here that are really good, that are really interesting to me. But if I'm going to be doing Warcry spamming, it's probably going to be the Warcry one, and the increased damage one. And then I have the points. If I have the points, which I'm pretty sure are going to be tight on points, the maim also, right? But I'm only doing 2 clusters. I'm only doing this. Well, I'm actually doing 3, right? This. So yeah, I'm going to be tight on points, right? So I don't know, but I like three nodes on there. Let me go through and look at the blocks real quick. What I want to see is if there's any block nodes that when activated give you a spell block. All this requires you to hold a shield. All is that added line of holding a shield. Let's see, this also holding a shield. This increases your block recovery. I guess you can consider also the that unique gem, right? What's it called? Because you're considering, what was it, immutable force with blood notch. It's something. It's on the line there. Something to consider. Let me keep looking here. Block while dual wielding. Block holding shield. I don't think there's any generic, like, if you have the ability to block, then you can gain something better. You can gain spell damage, right? And everything here just has that added caveat of holding a shield. This is an annoying territory where, like, if you think about it, if I think I can make use of it, then I have to think about anointing. But even that, shield staff. What's this here? Shield. I looked at it already. So yeah, there's no chance of getting spell block with it. So Defiance banner is gonna be purely just normal block. But everything else requires you holding the shield. But it's still good. Still good. Okay. That little detour is over with. I think that's, like, what else is here? Well, what's also down here is aura effectiveness, right? It's aura. Well, actually, is banners are an aura anymore, right? Because they no longer reserve, right? So what are their tags? Well, they are still considered an aura, though. Is that intentional? Because they no longer reserve anything, but they're still an aura. That means they still scale off aura effectiveness, right? Not just banner effective, but aura effective. They still scale off champion of the cause, right? Non-cursed aura will still scale it, but I mean, that's not worth the heavy investment there, right? Then you also still have up here with charisma, will still scale it, right? If I were to go up that high, or anoint it, but I think influence is probably the better choice if I were to anoint something. If I want to just build on banners that heavy, right? It's interesting. It's interesting that they're still considered an aura, even though they're not an aura anymore. They're like under their own new mechanic now. I guess they still fall under aura category, right? So let's go through here and see, because I would need two-handers, so I want to go mace. So the mace nodes are here. First, let's disable all this again. Do the mace nodes here, mace nodes here. This mace cluster over here, mace cluster over here. So what we got here? Rib Crusher, Mace Scepter attacks do 12%, 24% increased damage with hits and elements, 6% increased attack speed with scepters, 50% increased area effect. If you have stunned an enemy recently, I don't know if I'm gonna be stunning that often. What else we have here? 30% increased physical damage with maces or scepters. Maces, scepters deal 30% increased damage elements, 100% increased stun duration on enemies that are full life. What's over here? Let's see, 36% increased physical damage with maces or scepters. Maces or scepter attacks deal 36% increased damage with elements, 12% reduction to enemy stun threshold with maces and scepters, and then there's another cluster here, 50% increased area effect, and the rest are the same. So let's look at the generic. Actually, what's this over here? Increase damage with scepters and elements, 35% critical strike multiplier. Something to consider if I do perfect agony. Let's look at the generic. Where's the generic two-hander at? Generic two-hand damage. Been melee. It's the bow, isn't it? Oh, still melee. Melee. Lock in all those real quick. There's some faraway nodes over there. So I think these what's this here? Mastery. Okay. All right. So what's it saying here? This is physical damage of two-handers. It's an elements, attack speed, stun duration. I don't know how stunning works with like stun's always been a mechanic that kind of confused me in Path of Exile because I'm not sure how to trigger it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work on bosses. A lot of this is just increasing stun duration and then reducing stun threshold. So maybe I will be stunning a lot more than I think I would be as a melee. Let's see here. Critical strike multiplier with two-handed weapons. Another thing to consider with perfect agony scaling. But let's see here. What else? Wrecking Ball, two-handed melee weapons deal 25% increased damage with hits and elements, 10% increased attack speed with two-handed weapons, 40% increased stun duration. So a lot of stunning, a lot of stun duration. But it's not telling me if I'm going to trigger a stun in the first place. 10% increased area effect. We killed recently. 6% increased damage that hits enemies that are low life. So just execute, right? And then what else? 20% chance to impale. No, we're not gonna be doing impales, right? Pretty sure we're not gonna be doing impales at all. I guess that we peel off that altogether. And what else here? 16% chance to deal physical damage with two-handed weapons. Attacks with two-handed melee weapons deal 60% increased hits with damage. This is a smaller note. Look at this. Sorry, butchery. 24% increase physical damage with two-handed melee weapons. 5% increase attack speed to melee weapons plus 20 strength. That's not bad. What's down here? One-handers. Okay. take a moment to really read up on stun real quick. Hits have a chance to stun based on their damage compared to the target's maximum life. The base duration of stun animation is 350 milliseconds. Stun is determined before the damage is prevented by block. When a block hits stuns, the block animation is performed instead. Damage over time, reflected damage, and self-damage cannot stun. Hits that inflict freeze can stun. On stunning and when stunned, effects will occur immediately. Characters will not perform the stun animation until the action speed allows, typically after unfreezing. Critical strikes that result in cold damage being taken cannot stun under normal conditions. For details and potential workarounds, see stun and interactions with cold damage crits. Certain monster skills that are not able to stun at all, typically skills that hit rapidly in a barrage or an area. Picking up an item grants a brief immunity to stun. Stun chance can be calculated by the following formula. Stun chance percentage equals 200 times damage over defender's maximum life. If the chance to stun would be less than or equal to 20%, it's ignored, requiring the hit to deal more than 10% of effective maximum life to have a chance to stun. Dealing at least 50% of the maximum life will always stun. Interesting. Can bosses be stunned though? I don't know. Never mess with stun too much. I never looked at it as something to consider for any reason. And I also don't know how difficult it'd be to scale stun up. But it seems like stun is just being thrown at you a lot. But mace is right. If I'm using a two-handed mace. I wanted to see if bosses are affected by stun. Is this covered in the wiki? Boss? Katava and his map boss variants is the only boss with explicit stun immunity, although some bosses are immune to becoming stunned or interrupted during specific attacks, so you can stun bosses. Just how the hell do you deal 10% of a boss's life to stun them? At that point, if you're doing that much damage, you're most likely gonna kill them. Interesting. Okay. That little detour's over. Okay, so I guess stunning is not a bad thing. You get stun anyway. The more damage you do, the more chance you have to stun, so you don't have to really spec into it. But just because I'm curious. Could you even spec into it if you wanted to? Is stun even on the tree in any particular manner? 30% chance of double stun duration. So all of it is just stun duration, right? And reduce stun threshold. They're by themselves. 10% damage taken from stunning hits is recovered in life. That's defense. That's defensive layer. I don't know about that. I don't know if I would build in the stun. I don't think it's worth it, but it is interesting. Okay. Yeah, I just don't think you can build around stun, but I think that it's not going to hurt if you do have stun on. So let's throw a tree down here. The skills I do think that are worth considering. So here's where I kind of settled on for my my basic skeleton. Not generate any items. I gotta play this. There's too much unknowns. Well, I mean, I could jump in there and start looking guides. The reality is, what I'm looking to do, there's not really guides on. The fact that I'm looking at these two-handers, exertion. I don't see too many people going that route. They're going more the what looks obviously synergistic, and this playstyle might be a bit more complicated, convoluted. If anything, if I were to drop anything from this playstyle, it might be the banners. But then if it's drop banners and you drop the retaliation, the whole point of trying to make retaliate work with this class might not be worth it. But then again, it's already on the fence, right? As much as I like gladiator, what they're offering, it might just be that you just completely give up the idea of retaliation altogether. Just take this, even though it's kind of a throwaway stat. Because what else are you gonna do? There's nothing else. There's nothing else you can put points into. For some reason, GG thought this was a good node. I don't think this is a good at all. It would be a better node if it kind of like they all kind of shared some stats and then it was higher if you have the weapon on and the rest kind of residual. But on its face by itself, I think this is probably one of the worst ascendants. I don't like it. I don't understand why the office thought this is a good idea, but that's just where we're at, right? I guess they thought because you're dueling with a gladiator, you might want to mix and match, and then you mix a sword and a scepter, and it becomes a better no. But this is not worth two points. Even if you were dueling, it's not worth 2 points. So anyway, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Someone could jump in the comments right now and say you just know what you're talking about. Bitch, you could be right. I could just not see the world correctly. All right. Anyway, here's where I'm at. I know I'm interested in using the bleeds, the slams, the two-handers. I know you need to work right in order to exert. Exertions are very important for the slam mechanics. I know that the banners are kind of interesting, but I am not against dropping them. However, if I don't have a way of blocking, I can't retaliate. I can't make use of the retaliate node. And that's just the only thing here. So this dropping the idea of using this altogether frees up the use of banners, all of this frees up the use of both all these banner nodes I'm thinking about. They all clear up and I get like 20. Right? I stick to war cries, and I'm gonna stick to exertion like that, and that's enough because I got a lot of points for here, and I can just go towards cluster at that point, right? That's the fundamental usual try physical cluster jewel setup, right? And then the rest of my points would be straight up into defensive nodes, increasing armor stacking, more endurance charges, things like that, right? So I mean that's the plan there, right? So that's it. So I made sure to get the bleed cluster because I do like the idea of being able to cap your bleed out pretty early on. So I would probably get both of those. We get down to life. I don't know. It doesn't really seem that important to me whether I focus on maces or two-handed generic physical damage. So I'll decide that as I'm pathing in the game. What's more economical? Like I said, because a lot of this has to be done on feel for me. Like I'm not gonna jump into POB, build a weapon, all that stuff there. That I have to decide on the way what I'm gonna do here. I do like this Warcry node. Increase melee damage for each second you've been affected by a Warcry buff, especially since I'm going to be running Warcry buffs constantly. But so I'm going to be trying to facilitate that through increased duration and cooldown reduction, and seeing where I can get this to work out mathematically worth maintaining. Right. What else is here? I think that's just it. There's nothing else that's really jumping out here. And as I have the extra points here, I'll probably consider getting the elemental resistance nodes. I'll get the max life nodes. Probably make my way up here to this wheel here. Get this entire cluster here also, right? And then go from there, right. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see. Especially if I decide to do the earthquake of amplification. I need skill effect duration. And I'm going to have to make my way up this way just so I can get the skill effect duration nodes here and go over to physical damage over time multiplier, which is right. So we'll see. We'll see. Right. The other thing I wanted to check out before I wrap this up today, just looking at the warden itself and seeing how detrimental ranger side here, it probably wouldn't be earthquake just because of where the warden happens to be set up here. And it probably would be crit cap as soon as possible because I would have to rush that perfect agony setup because I don't think there's anything else around here that really facilitates bleeds. Like in this section here, the closest bleed cluster is not close. So you have these, this one here, here and here. I think that's the best you're gonna go. Anything further than that is stretching too far as a range. Like you're not gonna cycle your way all the way. And for this side here, I definitely would not be considering two-handers here. It probably would be building right because I don't think I can. Whoops, I can do any two-handers around here. I mean, I guess I could. I'm already up here. I probably could have reached some two-handed nodes, but like Ace is all the way over there. Axe is all the way over here also, right? Axe is here. Axe, Ace. There's some generic two-hand damage around here somewhere, right? Generic two-hand damage here. War cries here. I mean, I probably could reach them. I would be cycling towards this direction, right? So critical strike chance, what we have here, this is all dual wielding. 8 critical strike nodes here. I mean, I guess you could just get Heart Seeker, Perfect Agony's up here. What else? What other nodes you get? Probably get this. The tree would be really stretched out and really ugly looking, right? Because you get all the way down here and trying exertions and all that stuff here. It's just, it'd be very difficult to pull off a two-hander build. I mean, it looks hideous. It's a hideous looking tree and it's missing a lot of stuff. And you need to think about suppression. I think about armor. I think about all this stuff here. And so the idea of making a bleed two-hand build with Warden would not pan out. It'd be very difficult to pull off. This right here is what's 1257. It would take a lot more thought to make this work out, but it would be very difficult, very bare bones. So what I lean towards is if I wanted the Ranger stick to a melee slam, then I consider tectonic slam, and that puts you up here, just a single tincture, right? Full bark skin, then Oath of Summer. Right, probably no tincture. Try the wilds, right? So that's where we're at over there, right? So if tincture doesn't work out, ignite over here, that, right? And then from there, you got more options if you're going to do ignite TikTok. Still kind of working this out though. What I'm going to be starting off with though is the gladiator. I'm going to get myself up to maps and see if I can reason this build out, parse it out, and I'm going to be doing a lot of frequent updates. I am confident I can make it work. Whether or not it's fun to play while it is working is different because of the fact that a lot of keys is going to be pressing. I'm worried about pressing the war cries. I'm worried about pressing the actual skills themselves that you got to use. I'm worried about being able to fit it in there, right? I have to do the traditional auras also. You'll need determination. I don't think I need grace, but I definitely need malevolence. Doing a bleed, not problem. I'm a damage over time multiplier. So yeah, there's a lot of planning I got to go through and figure out how to make work in. But that's the fun of the path of Exile, right? You go through, you got an idea in your head, and you can go through and try to make it work, or you can pull up a guide and just go through whatever else is doing, right? Because that's also a route. But this time around, I really am looking forward to trying to parse out this new side of melee path of Exile. Anyway, thank you guys for dropping by. I appreciate you guys for giving me your time as always. Closer to league start, when I start playing, probably the day or two into the league, I will put up a path of building of how my build is going, frequent updates. I don't have any. It's not a league starter. I'm not making guides. I'm not a guide maker. I'm just, think of this as more of like a open journal of my Path of Exile experience and how I usually go through a league start and do league mechanics and stuff like that. People might like it. People might dislike it, but it's not for them. It's for me. Have you guys a good morning. And this is the only video you watch me today. Good afternoon or good night.